Have you ever fantasized about packing your bags, leaving your responsibilities behind, and moving to a completely new country? Well, in just a couple of days, that is exactly what I'm going to be doing. I'm moving to Malta.
I am leaving, and you can't stop me. I'm packing my bags.
But with the small exception that for me, I'll be doing it with all of my different responsibilities and my full-time job that will be following me through an iPad or MacBook screen. However, the key difference is that this time I'll be doing it through the beautiful sceneries of Malta instead of the somewhat miserable, somewhat wet and kind of depressing UK in October. I was reflecting recently that in the past 2 years, obviously with the pandemic, I've never really had a chance to kind of reset to a certain extent or take some time out and visit another country. So I thought, do you know what? It's going to be tricky for me to take like a holiday. Some of the days that I'm there, I'll definitely be able to take off. But why don't I at least bring the responsibilities and workload to a new setting and actually take advantage of the fact that I can work remotely at the moment. And at Google right now, we still have the very kind of generous option of being able to work from home, and that can be anywhere you want to work. And so while I have this option, even though the offices are now open and I could go in for breakfast, lunch, dinner and gym and swimming pool if I wanted to, I've kind of decided that, do you know what, I actually think it'd be more exciting, more challenging and kind of like more interesting to work from a completely different place, different culture, different scenery, and actually combine a little bit of tourism and a little bit of remote work in kind of one package. And so I basically decided that, you know what, I'm going to pack up all of my stuff, I'm going to pack up my iPad, I'm going to pack up my MacBook, and I'm going to take it to Malta, and I'm going to work there for a good few weeks. And once I figured out the basics in terms of like travel requirements, i.e. is the place open to visitors right now? Do you have to be double vaccinated? All of these kind of things. Then I kind of like worked out like a criteria of requirements with which the place needed to have for me to visit. And actually, when I kind of figured out that like criteria and the kind of benefits that the location that I was looking for had, Malta turned out to be a really good fit. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about why I'm going to Malta specifically to remote work for a few weeks and why I decided to make that choice. But first off, before we look at any of that great stuff to come, I was wondering, where the hell is Malta? And you probably are too. Well, Malta is actually located 93 kilometers south of Sicily and is a drop in the Mediterranean Sea and thus a really tiny speck on the map. Malta's a European country, all the natives are Maltese, they've got their own language and really rich culture and history. It's part of the European Union, and a fun fact as well, it's actually the 5th most densely populated country in the world. There's a lot of people crammed into that tiny island and I'm about to add to that number. Once I'd like decided on the location, I wanted to choose like an apartment and a place to stay where I could work for a few weeks, up to a month or two, and also people could come and go. So I wanted it to kind of be like a collaborative remote working environment where I can do my work, people can come and go, and there was things like a swimming pool and like the town and amenities like the gym, for example, which I've started to get back into. Alright, let's cover the reasons why I chose Malta. So the first thing is that it's really bloody beautiful, and it's really beautiful and serene at this time of year. Apparently, it is the warmest country in Europe, and compared to London, which only gets 1,630 hours of sunshine a year, Malta gets 3,000. So I'm a man who likes the sun, and I decided that, you know what, I want to get out of London because there's no sun there, particularly not in October, November time. And so Malta has almost double the amount of sunshine days per year. And right now, it's beautiful. It's like 28, 29, 30 degrees and full sun. If the sunshine days weren't good enough, Malta apparently has some of the most beautiful beaches in Europe too, which I hope that I'll be able to get some time spent working on the beach, or maybe I'll take a day off and then spend it down at the beach. But apparently it has some of the most serene beaches in Europe and possibly the world too. And fundamentally, even if it wasn't sunny every day and had the most beautiful beaches, it's going to be like 1,000 times better than spending time in London in October, which is going to be pretty cold, pretty wet, pretty chilly, and not really a pleasant experience. And it has also the benefit that, you know, I'll be able to top up my vitamin D intake, be able to get something of a tan. My hair tends to go a bit blonder in the sun too, so it's all good perks all around really. And the next reason why I chose Malta is because throughout the whole COVID pandemic, they've actually been really tight on travel restrictions in terms of like who they've allowed in and who they've allowed out. And I think that's like a really good thing because they've been able to limit the kind of like effect that COVID's had on the island. But right now, they've recently changed the restrictions so that if you're not vaccinated, you have to go through like quarantine and tests and all this kind of stuff. But if you are double jabbed, then you can basically skip all the quarantine, all of the tests too. So you can basically go into Malta, show your vaccine status, complete a couple of forms, and you don't have to do any quarantine or any tests when you arrive into the country. For me, that was really, really huge because the PCR test costs are just absolutely ridiculous and you kind of have no choice to pay them, right? You just can't get out of it. So that was an unintended cost that I wanted to avoid as much as possible that I can do with Malta. Here's a summary of the main restrictions that Malta currently has for people who are wanting to visit, and I'll put a link down in the comments if you want to go and look on the Malta Tourism Board website for more on those kind of COVID restrictions. But yeah, if you're watching this video and you're double vaccinated and you're looking for a place to go on holiday or travel to, well, the fact that Malta doesn't have any quarantine or any PCR tests if you're double jabbed is a really, really great benefit. Another big advantage of choosing Malta as someone who often works in the UK is that there is a lot of overlap between English and Maltese culture. And by that I mean like a basic thing like the language, for example. Like English is spoken throughout the island, and so when you're on holiday and you have that kind of like awkward thing of like asking someone for directions or where something is or how much something is, or I don't know, you're just trying to figure out like how to buy this croissant and they're saying that you need to have an additional 20 cents. Well, thankfully, I don't think I should have any of those kind of problems.
Wait. No.
But yeah, the reason for the cultural similarity is that Malta was actually under British rule for like 150 years. And since 1979, it is now like completely independent and it's part of the EU and is just a completely independent country. They also drive on the left-hand side of the road, which is very handy for a bad driver like me who wants to rent a car when I'm there. They also use 3-pin electricity sockets, which is just super handy because that's the same as the UK. Oh, and just in case I was thinking that maybe I'd be worried about missing out on British cultural icons, well, apparently they have red telephone boxes and red post boxes too, so I'm pretty set on that. Oh, the final similarity to the UK is the time zones are super similar too. So there's only like a 1 hour difference between the current British summertime and the current Maltese time zone, which is like super handy. So I only have to be like an hour ahead when I'm in Malta. Yeah, something like that. Which is also, I think, better than going the other way, being an hour behind, which means I would need to have woken up earlier. I think that's right, yeah. The next reason is actually like super important because realistically, the time zone like aside, I could work anywhere in the world as long as I have a good internet connection.
I feel the need for speed.
And apparently across the EU, Malta is like the highest ranking country for like fast fiber internet. So I shouldn't have any kind of problem if I'm on a Google Meet call when I'm in Google, or if I'm trying to upload a video that I filmed when I'm there. Hopefully there shouldn't be any kind of lag or latency when I'm doing that. And also, Malta is one of the very few countries within the EU that has nationwide 5G coverage. And yeah, okay, they're only an island and it's not very big, but still, like that's a big thing. So when I'm there, when I'm roaming, I can use 5G internet. So I've got super fast fiber, I've got super fast 5G. So basically, internet is not going to be a cause of any issues. At least in theory. Let's wait until I get there to hold judgment. But yeah, apparently the government is investing millions in the 5G networks and the like fiber networks on the island to make sure that apparently the ping is less than 10 milliseconds. So even though I'm not necessarily going to be doing any of that, it's perfect for online gaming, streaming, or in my case, uploading 4K video. But it also means that I can't use dodgy Wi-Fi or poor connection as a reason for like leaving a meeting. The fifth reason, and the reason really that makes it all possible, is that the living costs of living and staying in Malta are actually like fairly similar to the UK, if not less. And obviously it kind of depends where you live on the island, but apparently living in Malta is about 40% cheaper versus living in London, which is actually like quite a big deal. And I reckon you'd probably get a nicer place in Malta versus living in London. Apparently it's super well connected in terms of like transport, there's like ferries, there's like a full bus network. It even has that like Uber Challenger Bolt in terms of like a taxi app if you want to get like a taxi around the island. I could rent a car if I wanted to. So it's super well connected, and there's all different affordable options. And even because the island's not super big, a lot of the places and a lot of the time you can just walk, which is actually probably something that I'll be doing often. Or maybe if they've got one of those electric scooters, maybe I'll get an electric scooter. That's actually probably the first time that I've had like a valid use case of using a scooter on an island. That's probably like the most useful thing ever. Damn, well, let's hope they've got electric scooters on Malta, because that would be pretty good. And also, like, there's a ton of stuff that you can do in Malta for free. Like, you can go hiking, and also all of the beaches across the entire island are completely free for public use, which does differ to some places that I have heard about where they charge you to go on a private beach or like a beach on an island that I have been to before. I didn't know that was a thing until I actually saw it in practice, but yeah. Having an island where all the beaches are free and open to anyone is actually quite an advantageous thing. Last but not least, I think this is actually one of the most important things when you're considering a place to remote work from, especially if you're going to be there for like quite a few weeks, is apparently the people in Malta are like super friendly and super lovely to be around. And there's like loads of community events and parties and festivals that happen across the island. And a good example of this kind of community is that in October, apparently there's like a festival called Notte Bianca, where all of the kind of like public state buildings and museums are open complete to the public, free of charge. So if I get a spare afternoon or a spare weekend or day off or whatever, I can basically go and tour around all the different state buildings and museums, visit all the different local communities, and you know, soak up a bit of local culture. So yeah, in a few days, I'll be leaving the farm for a few weeks, and I'll be taking my camera and mic and like portable tripod and light setup with me. So do not worry, the content will not stop here, and I'll even be taking this little like DJI Pocket 2. So hopefully there'll even be a couple of Malta vlogs too. So if you're not already, hit the subscribe button below, subscribe, because there will be really exciting Malta vlog content coming. I can promise you that. Until then, check out one of these two videos here, which YouTube thinks that you will enjoy next. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers.